here. You usually couldn't really see me because I was hidden behind all this stuff. And somehow, plugging all this stuff in kind of back to front, I was able to kind of combine that idea of the live performance and the DJ performance. And when I started doing this, the results were instantaneous. I was able to play any of these records that people knew and suddenly completely mutate them beyond what I was able to do with this EQ. Because of that, by that time, other people had started to use the EQ. It had become commonplace. And I guess that's another thing that drives me forward and along. With technology, as it moves forward, there's always other people trying similar things. And once everybody else is trying it, I'm usually trying to find something new, a new angle. Because again, doing these things is what distinguishes me from the rest of the guys or the rest of the girls, whoever's out there performing. And so I was always looking for that new angle, and using these new boxes and things, the next thing I kind of added after the EQ was using an effects box. And what that does is it gives me a number of different possibilities to change the record again, to mutate it, to add or subtract different frequencies. And I'm gonna keep playing this record, so by the end you'll probably get really bored of it, but it's the best way to demonstrate the differences. So again, we had all the EQ tricks. By '93, this was kind of played out, and everyone was doing it. And actually, by that time, a lot of the equipment manufacturers had also caught up and had started releasing mixers with EQs built into them, because pre-1990, a lot of them didn't. And if they did, still the club owners were like putting a lock and key under it. So the next thing I added was an effects box, which doesn't really, they all look differently, but this is what's here. So if anyone's seen me play recently, I usually have some kind of crate full of gizmos, and this is one of the ones I'm using right now. And this enables me, the effect I have right now is a delay, so I can start to play with things a little bit more. I usually do it a little bit better when I'm like, trying to make people dance. Everything's syncopated, but I'm not worrying about it so much today. So I can do it. If you need me to prove it, come to the next party. One of the kind of the problems I started having when I started using all this equipment, especially when I had this other mixing board up here, was that I found out I only had two hands, and it was becoming increasingly difficult to do all these things and do them in time to for the crowd's reaction. And so my kind of, I'm going to hold this up. My secret weapon became this, which is like an old guitar pedal, which actually, in a lot of ways, Decks and Effects 909 wouldn't have been able to even happen without this, because this is kind of my third hand, and this enables me to change some of the effects parameters. So if I'm taking frequencies out of a record, if I'm doing special EQ routines, if I'm doing these delays, this changes a certain parameter so that I can have my hands free to, well, mix. I don't scratch, but so you can hear it change. So that was another kind of looking for new technology and old technology that could enable me to do something interesting. One of the things I had to look for is even the effects box that I was using in the early days, not all of them can be controlled this way. So it was always a thing of trying to find the right box to do the right thing, and which would also give me the most power without bringing in a whole box load of equipment. So one of the next kind of developments, which actually we didn't even bring it today, and I just noticed that, but was another crossover from what I was doing in my live performances, and that was trying to add a little bit more spontaneity into my shows. And some of you may have seen, for a while I was using a TR-909 drum machine in my shows, and what that enabled me to do was not only play people's records and not only mutate them with these effects, but to also add in new production or new percussion over top. Again, just to change the records. And not only was, it wasn't just the technology or the other people who were doing some of the things that were driving me forward. It was, as this scene has got bigger and bigger, when I started out, 10 years ago, if I had this particular record, perhaps I was one of the only ones in Detroit with it, or maybe there was like 2 or 3. And if people were going out every night, maybe they only heard it once or twice a month. And as this whole scene has got bigger and bigger, more commercial or more popular, people have been hearing the records more often. You can go to the store now and buy the best of, house, or the best of techno, or a Jeff Mills mix CD or my mix CD, and hear some of your favorite records. And you nearly become, you nearly know the records too well. So if everyone's listening to all the stuff that all the DJs playing, I started to think, well, then it's getting, again, it's making my job harder, because I'm up there playing these records back. People have got these at CDs. They're listening to them at home. There's got to be another way, or I've got to search for more possibilities to allow me to change these records again. It's nearly like I'm on a quest for being able to play, someone's favorite record that they've heard for 20 or 30 times to them again for the first time. So they're like, oh, I know this record. I love this record, but I've never heard this version before. Or, what has he done to it? Just again, to pull that rug out from beneath the feet, to make things a little bit uncomfortable, because, some of the, I guess we go to these clubs and we want to dance, or we're listening to this music at home, but if it's just a run-of-the-mill night and someone plays all this favorite music back and forth, it just gets, again, it isn't memorable. There's got to be something which is uncomfortable, or something which is, what is this? What is he playing? What is he doing? Is this a remix? Is this a special re-edit, or, is this a brand new track? And it kind of like starting to pose questions to people. So, again, they're thinking about it. So that's always kind of been in the back of my mind to, in this quest for what equipment to use and why I'm doing it. It's just another reason to mark that evening for the people, for the person to really identify kind of a moment in time, so that hopefully in 10 years, people who've been to my shows will either look back and have those as the things that they thought were important enough to lock away in their memories. Okay, I'm going to look at my notes because I'm getting a bit sidetracked. One of the other, as I started to use some of these technologies, the effects and everything else, it started to also help me start to think about music in a slightly different way. Taking another little step back, when I began, it was this basic EQing technique, and it was about playing 2 records on top of each other. Then I added the effects and further instrumentation of the 909, and it started to become more like remixing the records that I was playing. And when you start to think that way, I started to listen to the records not in a linear fashion, which is a way I think a lot of other DJs were thinking of music at that time, just playing back the record the way it was recorded. I even have some friends who are, like DJs just to play back the record the way it was made. This is the way the producer